Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Kean, and I'm your host, I guess. But today I'm going to be going over the 7 things that I've implemented in my life that have made my existence better. So it's made me just the texture of my life a lot better. So I've been happier because of this. I've been, I guess, more fulfilled. Just overall, I feel more positively about my life because of these 7 things that I've been doing. And so I just want to share those with you because I think that my younger self definitely could have done this a little bit earlier. Even though I'm only 17, I still think that implementing this a little bit earlier would have saved me a lot of just mental pain and just general pain and suffering. So I think I think that this is somewhat helpful. But yeah, let's get into it. And let's just start with the first thing is I stopped caring about what other people thought of me. So I'm not that old, okay? And so I don't think I've had a ton of experiences where, you know, the opinions of others really weighed on me and I like completely changed my mind because of it. I'd like to think that I'm a relatively independent person and I've been relatively independent for most of my life. But I think the one thing that has held me back from certain decisions and taking actions towards the life I want, it has always been tied to what will this person think of me? What will my parents think of me? What will this what who what will whoever think about me whenever I do this? And it's held me back from a couple of things in life, and I just don't think that's a a good way to live, especially if you want to do something that's a little bit different from the norm. Having that mental blockade of just worrying about what other people will think, it just like stagnates and paralyzes you because you're scared of what they will think. And yeah. So I have written down here like maybe you don't have that specific thought of, oh, what will this person think of me? But I think that for most people, it's kind of just factory installed because, I mean, if you think about it, humans are social creatures, right? We're meant to interact with other human beings. And so if you think in like a context of like caveman or whatever, right? Generally, if you do something that's against the group and the group doesn't like it and they think you're weird and they ostracize you, you're kind of dead. So it makes sense how this feeling is kind of like factory installed into us. And for certain things, it's good, right? You should probably question what other people will think of you if you are trying to commit a crime, right? Or doing something immoral, right? But that feeling, it kind of leaches into other areas of our lives. And, I've experienced that personally, whenever you're trying to just venture out into doing something different from the norm, you start getting that feeling of like, oh, like, what if they ostracize me? What if people disapprove of me? And I think it's something that we just need to overcome in general. So, some of the choices that I've made whenever I've worried about the opinions of others has been like the way I dress, certain activities that I've been doing that I've kind of like stuck myself into. So, a good example of this was this year actually. I was playing soccer, right? I've played soccer for a long time. Since I was like 4 years old or something, right? It's been a while. And just this year it just wasn't fun anymore. And a part of that is because we were losing basically every single game, right? But I felt before, even when I was in like losing seasons, that I was still improving. I still wanted to get better. I was okay with it. I was kind of frustrated with my team, like, guys, we got to do better, that sort of thing. But this year, I just really just couldn't take it anymore. I just felt like this is so pointless. Why am I here? I could be doing something different, more productive, something that I genuinely want to do, something I enjoy doing. And yeah, and I stuck with it because I was worried about, what would my parents think? What would the coach think? What would my teammates think if I just quit? And for certain things, you probably shouldn't quit, but honestly, like, there's no real enjoyment in losing all this. Like, yes, like the wins, like we won 4 out of the 23, so we were 4-19, right? And, winning those 4 games, cool. But honestly, I just lost all the enjoyment because rather than enjoying the win, I was more like just glad we didn't lose. And I don't think that's the way you want to feel whenever you're playing a sport. Whenever you win, you don't want to feel like, oh, I'm just glad we didn't lose today. You want to feel like, yes, we've won, hooray, right? At least that's the way I view it. I think that it's such an important feeling in sports. Like, I did this, I improved, I got better. We improved, we got better. It's not like, oh, I'm glad I just didn't do crap today. And I was listening to this podcast with, was it Dry Creek, Dry Creek, Dry Creek Dwayne, I think. He was on the Modern Wisdom podcast, right? But he was talking about how some days it's a win if you just don't mess up. But I was feeling like that every single day, that it was like, or even just the wins, right? I was like, okay, we just didn't lose. And that's okay. But considering everything else was a loss, I don't think that really like balances the scales, if that makes sense. So I'd rather, like, I don't know. It's just one of the it's one of the stories that I've stuck to, or that's one of the activities that I stuck to because I was worried about the opinions of others. And I mean, it took like 3 months of my life away, so it is what it is, I guess. Learn that lesson. Yeah. So another thing is, this is funny. So back in the day, whenever I had a girlfriend, back in freshman and sophomore year of high school. So I'm a senior now. Back in my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I had a girlfriend, right? And I remember I would intentionally like not hang out with my other friends and like just hang out with her because whenever, I don't know, there's some complicated situation, right? And I don't mean to rag on her or anything, but it just felt like if I didn't prioritize that relationship, then like she'd be mad at me or whatever. Right? And so I was just kind of, I valued her opinion like very highly in my life. And so a lot of decisions that I made were kind of like this emotionally charged, irrational decision making, because I was thinking like, oh, but what if she gets mad at me whenever I do this thing? And I don't think that's a really good indicator of what you should be doing in a relationship. Like, you shouldn't really be 100% worried all the time of like, oh, is she gonna get mad at me for doing this thing? Like, just live your life, and if she gets mad at you, then you're probably not compatible, if that makes sense. Unless you're doing something, again, immoral, right? So yeah, that's just another thing that happened. I don't have like a huge list of things. It's kind of hard to think of like specific instances, but I've always had that feeling of, what will people think of me when I do this thing? Like, sometimes I'll record myself in the gym doing like a set of like deadlifts or whatever. And for a while, I was really hesitant to try and record myself in the gym that I work out at because I would think, oh, well, what will people think of me? They'll look at me weird. And so it just kind of held me back from like just simply like recording myself to either put up as like B-roll on some YouTube video that I make, or just like just reviewing my form, because I don't have like a gym partner that can tell me like, oh, your back needs to be straighter, you need to bend down more for the deadlift or whatever, right? Like, I don't have necessarily like in-person coaching. So it's like if I want to get better, it's generally myself looking at my own form. So yeah, but I'm very glad that I've kind of cast this off, just at least to a decent degree now, to where I don't have as big of a worry of what people will think about me. It's just like venturing into new things isn't as scary anymore. And I think that's such a valuable thing, because whenever you're young like me, I think it's important to try different things, to get out of your comfort zone and to not worry about what other people will think of you, because I don't know, it just separates you from a majority of other people, because I think so many people my age are so worried about what their social groups will think of them, what other people in like the school will think of them. There's so much stuff that kind of goes into that. Like I remember I posted a YouTube video. I like this will be posted on like the podcast channel, but I have a separate YouTube channel, and I unlisted it now just because I don't want that to be kind of like the video that I share out. But I posted a video that I had made sometime last year, and it was talking about some like really like personal stuff that I had overcome, and kind of like an embarrassing habit that I struggled with for a while. And I remember I was at a gym speaking to an acquaintance of mine, right? So, someone who went to my school, and he was like, "Dude, you know that stuff's on the internet forever, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's not that big of like I'm not scared of it." And I'm not saying that he's scared to try new things either, but it's just kind of that, I think, again, it's that factory installed brain that we have, like, oh, but that thing's kind of embarrassing, bro. Why would you post that? Like, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of fear, I think, for guys my age, and I think it's so important to cast that off. But yeah, moving on with that, it's just, I found out that nobody cares for too long, okay? Their attention span is short, doesn't really matter. Like, they might give you flack for a little bit, but after like a week, they're gonna forget. Like I remember, again, this other YouTube channel that I have got shared around the school for a little bit, and I guess people were talking about it for like a week, and then everybody forgot. Like nobody really comes up to me. It's like, oh, like, are you still doing that? Like, oh, like they all forgot, because they all have their own lives. They all have to worry about what the other people will think about them, right? They have more things going into their brain, so it's really not that big of a deal if you're, reaching out. People will criticize you, they'll make fun of you, but it's not deafening. It's not going to be in your ear constantly. So it's not really anything to worry about. It's just your own brain makes you worry so much more than is what's actually like tangible, what people actually think about you. Ugh. And so I've written down here an exception to the rule. So for most people, you shouldn't give a crap about what they think about what you're doing, okay? For a majority of people, again, besides the like immoral stuff, you should probably consider what they're thinking, right? But an exception to this rule, right, thus proving the rule, is care about the opinions of people who have what you have and what you want to have in life, right? So if you are talking to some jack dude, right, and you're asking him, okay, how and you're asking for like specific, some sort of like mentorship, right? How do I achieve X? And this dude, he's jacked, so you're talking to him to like about how to lift better, how to build more muscle, that sort of thing. But this dude's like freaking yoked, right? You should care about what he thinks, about what you do, about et cetera, et cetera. Like, you should care about that, because if you just completely disregard his opinion, then you're being stupid, because he is wiser than you in the thing that you want to get better at, right? So you should listen to him, okay? And unless it's someone like maybe you don't, maybe it's some dude who got jacked doing CrossFit, but you don't like CrossFit. Okay, fine. Then don't listen to him because he hasn't gotten to where you want to be through like the method that you want to, if that makes sense. Right? Like he's CrossFit jacked. Okay, but you want to get bodybuilding jacked. Listen to the bodybuilder, if that makes sense, right? So just consider the people who you look up to, and then worry. I wouldn't say worry, but just take into consideration their opinions of you, like especially if they're like speaking to you one to one, right, or in like a group or something. Like I would say value their opinions pretty highly, because if they have what you want, right, you should most likely listen to them. Okay, if they have the life that you want, if they have the arbitrary goal that you want, right, you should probably listen to them in most cases, right? Obviously, there's some people who are immoral, right, and try to scam you or whatever, right? And you should be careful of that. But if they don't have what you want, then you probably shouldn't listen to them, right? And so I was actually in the sauna just this morning, right? I had just finished swimming, and I was talking to these like older ladies, and it's so weird. It's like because I'm 17, right? Basically every single conversation that I have in the sauna, it always ends up being, oh, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? And it's like, I just want to podcast. I want to get good at speaking. I want to, I guess, be famous, I guess. I don't know. Like entrepreneurship, that sort of thing. Fitness. That's the sort of thing that I want to get into, right? And I don't know. It's just like these people every single time will talk about, oh, you could do this, you could do this, you could do that, right? They try and give me advice, and it's like, okay, I respect that, right? And I still listen to them. I still hear them out, right? Because I'm not going to be disrespectful and say like, oh, no, I got this on lock, bro. Like, I know what I'm doing. I could say that, but in reality, I don't really know what I'm doing all of the time. But just if I were to listen to these people who don't have what I want, right? Like these are old ladies sitting in the sauna. They aren't, super fit. They aren't, I mean, chances are they aren't super wealthy, right? I could be wrong, but they don't look like the kind of people that I want to listen to. And I'm kind of judging a book by its cover. I didn't really go further into it, but it's like, I don't value their opinions because like they don't have what I want in life. And so whatever advice that they're giving, if they were to follow it, maybe it'd work, right? But like if they haven't even followed their own advice, then why should I listen to them, right? Or if they're not even trying to follow their own advice. So that's just my opinion. Like I'm not going to be disrespectful, but I'm just not going to like listen to them. I'll hear them, but I'm not going to genuinely like take into consideration what they have to say. Yeah. Anyways, that's kind of the long spiel on the first thing that has made my existence better. And the reason why it's like a longer section in this podcast is because I think it's so valuable to really cast off the opinions of others and to just stop worrying about what other people will think and just do what you want, right? Within bounds, of course, right? But if you value others people's opinions so highly, you're not going to get anything done because you're going to be worried about, oh, well, this person, like you're going to be paralyzed and scared, and that's not where you want to be, right? Mentally or for your progress, anything. So yeah, don't worry about what other people think. Just do what you need to do for your goals. So the next thing I have here, and hopefully this will be a bit shorter, is to avoid unnecessary conflicts or tasks. I can't tell you how much mental headspace and how much just breaths of relaxing breaths that I have gained because I have gotten rid of unnecessary conflict and unnecessary tasks from my life. I can put the energy that I would spend worrying about, oh, I need to do this thing, oh, I need to like the literal effort into doing like useless tasks, or the little mental effort of arguing with someone, and I can put that towards other things that will bring me more peace of mind, more joy, more fulfillment for my life. It's so nice. And I'm so glad that I've started doing this, because I used to be the kind of guy that would obsess over the like useless shit. And whenever I say like just fucking useless shit, bro, like like I just want to emphasize that it's so useless, the things that I have like stressed out about. But unnecessary like conflict or tasks, right? So what I do now is I do not worry about, because I'm still in school, right? I do not worry about useless assignments that do not shift my grade in a meaningful way, right? So a good example of this is my government class that I was taking this semester, right? We had 2 essays that we had to write, and they were worth like 25. I don't even know what the weight of them was, but they were worth like 25 points. But it's a handy software that I'm in, that I have, but you can like calculate your grades basically and put in like a what if score. And so I put in a zero. Like what I do now is I'll put in a 0 for that assignment to see if I can like just skip it and be fine. And I put in that for both of those, because I knew like for the other assignments I would do well in, like the quizzes and the actual like exams. Like okay, I can smash those out. Like I'm pretty, I guess, book smart or something, like I guess is how you'd say it. I'm pretty good at memorizing things, if that makes sense. So I can do quizzes pretty easily. But it's just like I don't want to write these essays. It'd be a waste of time, too much headspace. I could be focused on other things, right? So I put in a 0 for both of them. There's like a midterm and like a final exam essay. And it didn't move my grade in any meaningful way. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to even worry about these. And it's little things like that that I personally really, really enjoy, because it's just, I don't have to freaking worry about it. It's just like a sigh of relief. It makes life smoother to remove these like unnecessary tasks that ruin your brain, that stress you out for no reason. Like I used to be the kind of kid that I'd like, and this is, yeah, like I was so worried about my grades as whenever I was younger, right? And I was kind of pressured, like, oh, you should get the best grades, and it makes sense, right? I'm an intelligent guy, at least I'd like to think that. And so I probably should be getting like relatively good grades, but it's just like the mental stress that I put myself through, because I was like, oh, I need to retake this test even though I got freaking 95% on it. Like, you don't need to retake tests if you get 95% on it, dude. If you get 95% in life, you're winning. Okay? Like, it's very hard to get 100% perfect in life. And yet you're just trying, like, it makes sense to like try and try again to get better, right? But whenever you're at that 95% and you're just like, oh, I need to get 100%, I need to get better. It's just, I just feel like it's a waste of time, especially for something that's not beneficial in life. Like it's for some freaking history quiz, dude. Like, who cares that you got one question wrong about the Civil War, right? Like, how is that going to meaningfully impact your life? But what will meaningfully impact your life is the amount of stress that you put yourself through worrying about this stuff. And so I just like I try to really minimize the unnecessary tasks and just kind of condense it to what is needed and what will get me the highest leverage for time put in. But the second part of this is avoiding the conflict. So like I don't really like arguments, and I really don't like arguing with people who don't even like actually listen to what you have to say, because if you're having a conflict, it's obvious, like there's some conflict of interest, or even like, yeah, like there's some conflicts, right, that you have to go through. But it's whenever the like either you aren't really responding in the way that you need to, or the other person is responding in the way that you want to. It's a dysfunctional argument. And so what I try to do personally is, like, if I'm getting into some sort of conflict with another person, it's not very often that this happens, but if I get into a conflict with another person, it's just kind of like, okay, am I losing my head, or is the other person losing their head, right? Because if we get into this conflict and we have a genuine debate, okay, fine, right? We discuss it, stay respectful, discuss our points. If we leave it and we still disagree, okay, fine. But whenever I get heated, I start making bad decisions. When the other person starts getting heated, they like stop listening, communication shuts down, and just becomes like yapping for there's no benefits that come out of that. It's just increased animosity, increased resentment. Because whenever you stop like listening in an argument or a debate or a conflict, so something that I've learned is, like, communication is only like 7% verbal, right? And those are kind of like the important aspects that you kind of have to reach in and understand. Most of the time, communication is like body language and tone of voice, right? So imagine you're in a conflict with someone, but the tone of voice becomes angry, and you start getting loud, and the body language is angry, but you completely take out the words, right? And let's just imagine language was like just grunts, right? Are you really going to want to cooperate or resolve the conflict with someone who's like, rah, like angry at you, right? No, right? And so whenever you stop listening to someone, you stop hearing those verbal messages, they could be saying the most logical thing ever. But if they're mad and they sound angry, it just turns you off from listening to them, and you start to sort of revert into this like primal like fight or flight mode. And it's not useful, because you don't get anything done that way, because then you start yapping and yelling at each other. So I just try and avoid that person. I just try and shut it down. Like, especially if I get heated, like I don't want to lose my face, if that makes sense. And so I'm just like, I can't right now. Just, I'm not even gonna deal with this. And maybe that's unhealthy, but whenever I do get heated, I always regret it afterwards. I tend to overthink about it. There's these situations that spawn in my head. I overthink. It's just not a good texture for my existence, right? And these are things that have made my existence better, right? Not worse. So I just try and avoid that. Anyways, moving on. The third thing that has made my existence better is to simplify my life and thinking. So this is kind of an add-on to the two previous things, but just simplify my life, right? A really good example of this that I really enjoy is something called the Midwit meme. So it's basically this, what do you call it, distribution graph. And so essentially, like, either tails of the graph is kind of like the 1%, either in the bottom 1% or the top 1%. And then as you get to the center of like the normal distribution, where most people are, like the normal way of thinking, right? That's kind of like this Midwit meme is based around, right? And on the left, so like the bottom side of the distribution, is this caveman looking dude who has like a monobrow. In the center, there's this like crying overthinker dude who's like, rah, like raging, crying dude. And then on the far like right end, it's probably like reversed because this is a camera, but on the far right end, there's this like Jedi looking dude, right? Super futuristic, intelligent bro, right? And it's funny because like the meme is funny most of the time, because the captions, it'll be some super convoluted thing in the center, like how to build muscle, right? How to build muscle, right? In the center, it'll be like, oh, I need to maximize my muscle protein synthesis. I need to make sure I'm lifting and eating 6 meals a day. Like, so many things are going to be said, right? Overthinking, and the two on the outside always have the same answer. It's eat, sleep, lift. Eat, sleep, lift. Simple, right? It simplifies things. And I forgot what the saying was. I forgot who said it, but it's like the simplest solution is oftentimes the right one. It's kind of like water takes the flow of least resistance, right? And so I'm not saying that you need to, like, if you are simplifying your life, that you need to not embrace hardship. That's not what I'm saying. Like, least of resistance doesn't mean not embracing hardship. Okay, that's not what I mean. I think you should embrace hardship. But whenever you think about the goals you have for life, like, this is something that I try and do, is like, when I think about the goals I have for life, okay, I want to get faster in the 800-meter run. I want to get faster in the mile. I want to grow a YouTube channel. I want to get better at speaking. Okay, what are the things that I need to do? And so I don't worry about, oh, I need to take this course, and I need to like this thing, like there's no silver bullets. Okay, it's just like I need to run. If I want to get better at running, I need to run. Simple. Right? I don't need, like, I'm trying not to like overthink, oh, I need to make sure that my easy mileage is this amount, and I need to make sure that I need to super, like, I do kind of get into the like autistic, like super specific mode, but at the end of the day, it's going to be like, okay, I need to run. I need to run today. If I'm hurt, like, okay, I'll do like, I need to do cardio. I'll swim. Right? It's like, just something needs to be done. It's like just trying to simplify down that thought process and not really convolute it that much. I just think it streamlines things, and you worry about less overall. And the other thing that I want to have is just like overthinking about stuff. Like I was kind of saying before, doesn't really get you anywhere. Okay, overthinking is underdoing, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's a saying already, but I might have invented that. Overthinking is underdoing. Okay, it's like anxiety, and anxiety is relieved by doing something, taking action, right? Because that removes the animosity of, oh, what will happen if this thing, and blah, blah, blah. There's less brain activity, more body activity whenever you're going and you're achieving something, right? You're going and you're going for a goal, right? Because like I could overthink about how much I need to run and how much I need to do this thing or that thing. It doesn't get me closer to the goal of getting better at running. Like, sure, you can visualize it, whatever. But what gets me closer to the goal of being better at running is going to be going out and doing the thing, right? So just simplify it. Like, okay, I do this, I do that, right? Like like my diet is so simple, dude. Right? Like I don't eat anything. Like I have one rule, or actually not even one rule. I just have like a guideline. It's like eat meat, eat egg once a day. Just like, boom, you're good. Once or twice a day. like, like it's not this like super specific, oh, I need to reach this amount of protein and macros, whatever. It's just simplified. And I think that has made my life a lot better. It's just streamlining things, thinking less. Yeah, I think I don't know. Anyways, the next thing is not breaking promises to myself. And so basically doing the things that I say I will do. So I'm not perfect with this, right? I'll be completely honest. Whenever I plan out my day, I have certain things kind of laid out, and I don't follow it all of the time. But I'll be completely honest with you when I say this, is that I think I'm a I think I'm a bitch whenever I don't do what I say. I respect myself less. I think, how dumb are you, bro? You like listed out this plan, and then you're just not even gonna follow it. How like arrogant do you think you are? How arrogant are you to not trust the careful thought that you put in to plan the day before, right? And just go with it. Instead, you're listening to your feelings about how you should live your life. It's No bueno. Okay. So I found that whenever I do what I say, whenever I plan out my day or I put out a goal or whatever, I trust myself more. I have more confidence in myself. And this makes sense because, so I was listening to Alex Ramosi, right? Alex Ramosi says that confidence is basically the percentage chance that what you say will happen is going to happen. Okay, this is literally what a confidence interval is in statistics. I think that's one of the few times that I'll talk about my statistics education that I had last year. Yeah, a confidence interval is literally like the percentage chance that something is going to happen, right? So if you have like a 75% confidence interval, right? There's somewhere within a 75% chance that's going to happen, right? So if you increase, so if you build proof that that you can do the things that you say, right? You say you're going to wake up early in the morning, right? Today I woke up at 4:15 a.m. Not intentionally. They freaking our house cat woke me up, but I just stayed up anyways. I was gonna wake up at 5 a.m. But are you do you like if you build the proof, right? I said I was gonna wake up early this morning. I did it, right? Boom, 1 point on the scoreboard. Okay, if you keep racking up those points over and over again, then you have this stack of proof. Like, okay, I can do what I say I'm going to do, and that gives you such confidence into other areas of life. Because think about like Michael Jordan. Would you and compare him to like me, who is terrible at basketball, right? If we're in a Bulls game, who are you going to give the ball to win the game? I've made maybe like 20 basketball shots in my entire life. Michael Jordan is countless, right? Literally like probably hundreds of thousands of shots that he's either attempted or made, right? Versus my like 100, right? There's so much more evidence behind what he can do for basketball. Then of course you're going to have confidence that he's going to make the shot. You're not going to be super confident in me. Like I might get lucky, but you're going to have way more confidence if you're Michael Jordan or in Michael Jordan because he has the ability, right? He has the proof. And so this is what I'm trying to do in my own life is just like give myself proof that I can do the things that I say I'm going to do. And it's as simple as just waking up on the time that I say I'm going to, right? And it's eating the things that I say I'm going to eat and reading the books that I say I'm going to read and spending my time how I said I'm going to spend my time, right? It's these simple things that just stack up, like Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan analogy is just layers of paint, layers and layers and layers, till eventually you have a mountain of evidence, a huge stack of proof that you are who you say you are, that you can do the things that you say you can do. And so I just try and do this with just about everything. Like I said, like my diet, my routine, the work that I do, my exercise, etc., etc., etc. Don't break your promises because whenever you lie to yourself and you go off track, like I said before, I respect myself less. You will respect yourself less if you don't listen to yourself, if you don't follow through with your promises. How can you possibly respect yourself? Just think about that. How can you, like, imagine you have a friend who says he's going to do this thing for you. He's going to give you like $100 and you really need it, right? He's going to work hard for you to do this thing. He's going to wake up early for you and do this task. He's going to be more disciplined to be a better friend, right? But then he doesn't do it. Or he says that he's going to show up on time, and then he doesn't show up on time. Constantly, again and again and again. He doesn't do the things that he says he's going to do. Do you think that's a really good friend who just lies to you? Who, like, instead of helping you out, he actually hurts you, he insults you? That's what you're doing to yourself. You're literally insulting yourself whenever you don't do the things that you say you're going to do. You're literally like you're betraying your own word. You're not a man of your word. You're untrustworthy. So how, like in the future, how can you possibly trust yourself to do the things that you want to do? Right? Like that's the question that I ask myself sometimes whenever actually, it's not even a question. It's just kind of this like intuitive feeling of like, how can I like possibly trust myself if I don't even have the wherewithal to wake up on time or to eat in the way that I said I was going to, right? Like it's those small things that build up over time that truly build the kind of that like foundation of trust, so you can go into other areas of your life. So I'm trying to do this as best as I can, right? I'm not perfect. Like I said in the beginning of this like section, I'm not perfect with it, right? But I think having that kind of like that daily feedback loop of planning my day daily, and just that quick feedback loop of like, okay, did I actually do what I said I was going to do today? And like if it's above like 80% following the plan, I did a pretty good job, and so I'm happy with that. Obviously, I want to get closer and closer, but my planning skills aren't necessarily perfect, if that makes sense. But if I can do the majority of the things that I say I'm going to do, then it's like, okay, good, I'm on track. And if I don't do that and I have a really terrible day and I don't do the things that I said I'm going to do, having that daily feedback loop of like, okay, I did not do I did not achieve what I wanted today. I just think it's like such a faster feedback loop. And so I'm more motivated to get back on the horse and to try again and again and again until I get closer to that goal of like doing exactly the things that I'm saying I'm going to do, right? Like that would be cool, right? And like I don't try and make it easy on myself, because I could say, oh, okay, I'm going to sit around all day and eat junk food and watch Netflix. Anyone can do that, but it just, again, kind of back to the previous point the previous point of like simplifying life, but just like think about the goals that you have, and you know plan your day accordingly, if that makes sense, right? Set the plan out for your aspirations. I think that makes sense. I hope that I hope that does. But yeah, moving on to the next thing that has made my existence better is fitness. So getting leaner, getting more jacked, getting swole, and getting better cardio has been one of the best investments of my time that I think I could ever make. Besides like learning and improving skills and whatnot, practicing skills, my fitness is one of the greatest investments that I think I've ever could have made. So I used to be I wouldn't say super fat kid, but I was more on the chunky side, right? I used to eat just junk food whenever, just kind of eat whatever. I'm very fortunate that my mom makes these like homemade meals, but it's not all the time, right? And so generally, like I would have some junk food. I'd eat the school lunch, which is just fucking cancer. And so I wasn't the most in shape kids, and I don't think I have the greatest genetics for like athletics and whatnot. There's these fucking kids in my grade, bro. Like this one dude, he eats like whatever, and he's just like he's just yoked, bro. Like I don't know if he doesn't eat too much or if it's just like genetics or like whatever. But you probably know some kid like that, to where it's like he has just some crazy metabolism whenever he's younger, and so he can eat basically whatever he wants and not even worry about it. I'm not like that necessarily, right? Like I can eat a decent amount of things and not worry about it too much, but if I go ham, like it's just not good. And I like eating food, so but I remember a time whenever I didn't have good cardio, whenever I wasn't as lean or as, muscular as I am now. Not saying I'm the most jacked person ever, right? But I remember a time whenever I had less of these things and my life was objectively, like objectively, subjectively, everything was worse in my opinion. Like my brain was less clear. I struggled, like walking up the stairs kind of like gassed me out a little bit. I remember like even like I ran like a 9 minute mile at one point. I was just like fucking gassed. Like I was just tanked out, man, after that mile. Cause we would run it for PE class or whatever back in the day. I just remember being absolutely gassed from those things, and it's just kind of like the quality of life that I experience now, because I can go on a run and I feel great. I can lift heavy things and I feel great. Like I'm strong now. I can pick up people. I can pick up I'll sometimes I'll just like hug my mom, right? And I can just like pick her up, throw her around. Like I'm strong now, and it feels good to be strong. It feels good to be able to pick up like boxes and carry all the groceries in one go. Right, those sort of things. It makes the life quality that you experience so much better. And then there's also like the self-image side of things, of just one, knowing that you're strong, but also just having like a better physique for me has made my life better. I remember I went on a bulk last year, and I got like hella fat. I'll be honest. Like I gained like maybe 3 pounds of muscle, and I gained 7 pounds of fat. It was bad. Dirty bulk to the extreme, bro. But I wasn't even eating that dirty. But anyways, I really like. I was like almost depressing to look at myself in the mirror. Just like, especially considering like the year prior, I was just so much leaner. Like I was probably like 8% body fat leaner the year before whenever I did that bulk. And like it was just a big hit to my self-image. It just made me feel like bad. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing whenever you kind of feel bad for being kind of fat. Like I think a little bit of like body dysmorphia is good. I think to a certain extent it's good. It can be bad after a certain point, but I think you get what I mean. But along with that, it's just like whenever you become fitter, you Andy Elliott, he's this like motivational sales guy, but he says you become like a walking billboard. People respect you more. Right? I've kind of noticed that a little bit. I'm not like, again, I'm not the most yoked dude, but I've noticed that I don't know if people respect me more, or if it's just like simply the confidence that I have that kind of like reflects off it, but I just feel like people respect me just a little bit more. Maybe not to a great degree because I'm still kind of young, but there's always that kind of like sense of like innate. There's just more respect for people who are in shape. It's kind of like the halo property or whatever it's called, like the halo effect. It's just where I can't really describe it that well, so I'm going to refrain from it. But yeah, and the next thing for just fitness is the challenge and the mental toughness that you build along like in that journey of getting fit. You have to discipline yourself to go to the gym even when you're sore. You have to discipline yourself to still like wake up on time and hit the workout even if you're tired. I'm not perfect with it, but that's the challenge, is to get better with the discipline. And I think I've been getting better with it. And I've, especially in these recent weeks, bro, I've been getting a lot better in like pushing myself in the workouts, and I feel really good because of it. Like my lats are kind of sore from yesterday's workout, which is nice. Like it's good to feel sore sometimes, just because like like, okay, I put in the work. Anyways, moving on to the fifth thing. I'm gonna check real quick. Am I still recording? Yes. Heck yeah. Okay. The fifth thing that has really helped my life out is learning. The fifth thing that has really made my existence and the texture of my life better is learning things. So I like to learn things. I like to read books. I actually finished a book yesterday, and I'm starting this one again today. I've read this probably twice, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, but I'm going to read it again because I'm trying to get into this like entrepreneurial spirit sort of thing, and I feel like my life is better whenever I'm in that kind of like entrepreneurial, like go-getter type A sort of personality, whenever I kind of lean into that. but it feels good to learn things. Okay, like whenever you find some statistic, or you listen to some facts, or you learn something new, and then you can share that and actively recall it, which actually helps your memory. Whenever you do that and you like share with a friend and they're like, "Oh, that's interesting. That's cool." It's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm smart. I'm hella intelligent, bro." It's just nice to learn things. It's so cool. It's cool to be curious, if that makes sense. It's cool to learn things that you never knew before. Like the other day, I was kind of researching some like agriculture stuff, and I thought it was so cool. Like, oh, okay, they do this thing and that thing, and it's for like regenerative agriculture, right? And they're speaking about like cover crops. So I learned about a little bit about cover crops and how they can help the soil health, and how it there's a lot of like microorganisms in there, but all the plants are sort of connected through this like fungus, and how it's like this like big interconnected system, and it's more productive than just like dumping synthetic fertilizers on it, and it looks just like healthier soil. I just thought that was cool, and it's like the process to do it. Like, oh, we sometimes will add cattle to the area to trample the grass, and then we'll move them away so the grass like stays there and whatnot. I don't know, I just found it to be super interesting and cool to learn something that I was interested in learning about. And I think that's the good thing about learning things outside of the school system, is because one, it's not propaganda. It's not some like weird like, oh, cholesterol is going to kill you. Oh no, like it's nothing like that. Or some weird like left wing freaking propaganda stuff, right? Dude, like in my politics class, like the government class that I was in, this teacher, bro, he would just constantly play these clips from like the Tonight Show or whatever, and it's always these like hella biased clips, and like there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like you're in a politics class, like can you not provide something that's biased? Like can you, like I get it's for like entertainment or whatever, but can you provide like a non-biased view of things? Right? Like it just doesn't make any sense to me why education needs to be biased in any way. Like it's objective data, right? If you're trying to educate yourself, it shouldn't be from like like it should be from a diversity of opinions and sources that are factually correct, and not like, I don't know. It's just like it kind of annoys me whenever there's like that weird like undertone that the education system kind of has of like they say they're like not biased, but they always kind of educate you in a certain way that makes you think about something else in a certain way. I, I'm not sure. I'm not the best person to explain it, but just experiencing it firsthand, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, you're teaching me about this thing, but in a weird subversion sense, you're kind of teaching me to think negatively about this other thing, which I don't think is very helpful. I think it closes off your mind to wanting to learn more. And another problem that I have with just school in general is like they make education not fun. They don't make it fun. Right? They don't make it to where it's actually interesting or intriguing or things you want to learn about. And I get like there's some things that you probably just have to know about, right? That don't need to be fun, right? But it's whenever you make like learning things work, and you make work not fun, it just doesn't compute. It doesn't make people want to learn more. Like the school system has not made me want to learn more, right? It has made me want to stop learning. It has made me want to not work and just you know worry. That's, in my opinion, it just has not made my life that much better. Like, yes, I have learned things from it, but I just think learning stuff outside of like the propagandized school and things that are actually useful just make your life so much better. Like in this book that I have here, Atomic Habits, right? Like you learn how to build good habits and how to break bad ones, right? You learn the systems on how to build effective good habits that can change your life over your entire lifespan, right? Whatever that habit may be. Maybe you want to get into fitness. Maybe you want to get into reading, right? Maybe you want to get into being an author or a podcaster, a YouTuber, or you want to do whatever, right? You need to build effective habits towards that, right? And you can do that on your own, but you can also just educate yourself and speed up that process. And another thing I really like about books is like beyond the systems of like thinking that they can give you, like I have a book pile over here. That's why I have so many books. But this book, Meditations, it just gives you like a new way of thinking about life, which I think is so valuable. And like there's a couple books that I have here that that talk about stuff like that. But it's just like these things that are actually applicable and useful to your life, that you can do anything. But along with just like reading books and or listening to podcasts with people's experiences, is they are condensed down stories, or what do you say, like anthologies of people's lived experience, compressed down into something you can consume within 24 hours. Maybe not 24 hours straight, right? But within about a week, you can read most books, right? If you dedicate enough time to it. Within a week, you can read most books, right? Some people take a little bit longer. Like the book that I just finished, it took me maybe a month to finish because I would read it intermittently. But think about that. You obtain the knowledge of someone's lived experience in a month of reading. And maybe you don't retain it all, but still, you get these like nuggets of information from people's lived experience that you don't have to go through. You don't have to go through the trials and tribulations that they did. That's so valuable, right? That's why I like reading books. That's why I like listening to podcasts. That's why I like learning. That's why I like learning new things, is because it's so interesting to just obtain that information, right? And just being shut off. Like it's also, whenever you don't learn anything, you just become boring. In my opinion, you just become like a boring person, talking about the same things, thinking about the same things. Like there's no growth in that unless you are, trying to take in new inputs and trying to change your outputs, if that makes sense. Like you just stay the same, and by staying the same, you actually atrophy. You become worse by staying the same, because, it's just because entropy will take over your life, right? Inflation, like your personality is gonna get eaten away by inflation, bro. But yeah, beyond that, it's just, like I said, it's just peaceful to listen to a podcast. It's peaceful to sit and read a book and really digest what people are saying. Like, I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes I'll be listening to a podcast and they'll just be like yapping, and I'll be like and just like thinking about something else, which isn't the best thing to do, especially if you don't listen to podcasts like over and over again, like the same one. So you can kind of gloss over some important parts, which I think is kind of a big thing that you should avoid. And so that's something that I'm also trying to level up, is just my focus on actually digestion. Like, okay, I read this line, but what does it actually mean? What is he actually telling me here? Instead of just reading it. Because you can read something and then just forget it like 10 seconds later. But what is the impact of that in your brain, if that makes sense? That's something that I'm trying to level up and just kind of be like more intentional. Like, okay, I'm reading this book to learn how to think and grow rich. Am I doing that? Am I learning that by reading this book? Or am I just reading it for whatever, right? So yeah. And the last point that I have here is just kind of, you sound interesting at dinners. So like the other day, I was sitting at dinner. My dad's birthday was the other day, and we were at dinner, and the topic of the food system came up, right? And I just started blabbing about the stuff that I learned about like agriculture and whatnot. And I was like, oh yeah, this thing and this thing. And I thought I sounded pretty freaking interesting, Other people, they may think you're a freaking nerd or like crazy or whatever, but at least to yourself, you'll think you're a little bit more interesting, and that might help with your self-confidence. Anyways, okay, we're on to the last one now. The last thing that has made my existence better, and that is creating things. So this podcast, videos on YouTube. I remember in 5th grade, I made this comic book called Moo Man. I knew it would be a story one day. So back in 5th grade, I wanted to make a comic book, and so basically, I based this. It was like a farm animal version. It's like an Animal Farm version of like Superman, and yeah, like I just wanted to make a story about like a cow that becomes super powerful, and then he has like an arch nemesis and that sort of thing. I was into that. I was into telling stories. I was into making things whenever I was younger, and maybe I'm tapping into that a little bit now by just like explaining things and telling my story at least. But yeah, it's just I like creating things, and it has made my life better in a few ways. So I got them listed off here. First thing is they're an expression of you. You know, your personality, your emotional state, your desires, your motivations. It's kind of like a reflection of you. It's a peer into your soul. Unless you make some like soulless entertainment content, generally like the stuff that you create is going to be an expression of you. Like again, unless it's some like soulless, shill thing, then maybe it's not. But generally whenever you create something, you put your soul into it, you put your effort into it. And whenever someone is consuming that, either they're watching the content, they're looking at an art piece, they're listening to you speak, etc., reading your book, they can they can absorb what you were thinking, what you were feeling at that time, and kind of like you can almost like transfer that over to them. And I just think that's like a cool thing to do, in my opinion. I like doing that. I like seeing that in other people. Another thing with creating is you can teach people things. So something like this, where I'm kind of sharing stuff, but I'm like sort of teaching, but I'm just kind of like teaching my lived experience, if that makes sense. I like to think of teaching as creating understanding in others, right? I think that makes sense, right? It's like if you're teaching someone, you're trying to create understanding in them about whatever subjects that you're trying to teach them, right? So I found this it's a top tier way to learn more about yourself and the thing that you want to get better at, right? So teach that. And I remember whenever I've taught people things in the past, whether that's the interesting things that I learned at a dinner, right? Or it's teaching someone some aspect of like math that I understand well, because I used to be really good at like algebra and whatnot. Like I just like just be like, oh yeah, well you have to do this and this, and kind of like a math nerd, like math in math class, teaching them, or during soccer, like the high school soccer practices. Whenever I would teach someone this is how you do something, I would generally get better at that skill myself because I would have a deeper understanding of it because I would have to explain it. I've got it written down here. It's like it requires me to think a little bit deeper on the subject and to process it and to break it down into little chunks instead of having this kind of like broad understanding of like, okay, this is how you do it. Because those like there's some types of people that say like, oh, I don't know, I just do it, right? Like they have some innate talent or skill and they're like, oh, I don't know, I just do it, that sort of thing. But I don't think that's a good way this is not a useful way of teaching people or creating a deeper understanding yourself. Because whenever you have to teach people and you kind of break the animosity of the ambiguity, I think that's a better word for it, the ambiguity of that kind of innate feeling of knowing how to do it, and you break it down into digestible chunks, right? Whether that's teaching them, okay, then step 2 in this math equation is you have to do this thing, or teaching some tactic in your book or whatever, right? it becomes more broken down and digestible than some big blob of, okay, this is how you do it. If that makes sense. And so that's another reason why I like creating. It's just because like I can teach the things that I want to get better at, and I can, well, I can teach the things I want to get better at. It's hard to think about, bro. But that kind of comes in with the other thing of refining the other skills, right? So in order to create that message of teaching, right, for me, if it's how to eat better or it's how to get fitter, I have to find a way to articulate my speech in a way that makes it more digestible. I have to find a way to get like my thoughts out in the way that I want them to, and I have to find a way to even think better about the topic that I want to talk about. Right? Like there's like layers to this onion, bro. That's crazy. There's layers to this onion. Right? Like right now I'm trying to learn how to articulate myself better so I can just be a better speaker. How I can think better, think clearer, and winnow down my thoughts to things that are useful. But yeah, I can take this opportunity through my creation of this podcast to refine those skills, because I can go back on this podcast and I can see the points where maybe I had a lapse in thinking, or I had like I could have said something else in a better way. Like I could have said it this way instead of that way. And like those mental notes you kind of build up, and you start, just kind of like stacking. It's like game tape, right? It's something I used to do a lot for soccer, is I would rewatch the high school games like over and over and over again. And I'd watch some of my club games. I didn't really do that as much for club, but like some games I would just like watch back probably like 2 or 3 times over, just trying to really understand what I did well and what I could improve on. And the next game, I didn't, it's kind of like reading a book. Like I took all of those notes, and maybe half of them stuck with me, but I still managed to implement maybe 20% of that. And so I got 20%, 15% better that game, right? Like that's powerful. And so you get like, you refine those skills by creating stuff, if that makes sense. But yeah, and by just creating stuff in general, you can improve your skills, right? So if you want to build something, okay, I could build a house and I get better at building, right? Maybe it's not great. Maybe I'm at level 0 building, but if I try and build, I'm probably at level 1, right? And so you get how like those reps of creating stuff will make you better at the skill that you want to get better at, right? Like I want to get good at speaking. I want to get good at running. So, and this kind of goes back to the thing I was talking about earlier. It's just kind of like, what was I talking about? It's a lapse in judgment, right? Lapse in thinking right there. Frick. I forgot, bro. I'm gonna be honest, bro. But yeah, it's like, go out and create something. If you want to get better at it, go out and practice it, because you get better by practicing. You don't get better by just reading about it. You get out by taking action. And the last and final point that I have for this podcast is, I like to creating has made my life and existence better because it's fun. I enjoy doing this. I get into like a good flow state. I'm in a good mental state. It's this balance between challenge of trying to figure out what things I can say. It's fun because I can express myself. I can make the jokes that I want. I can yap on about the things that I want to talk about, or the things that I think are important. It's fun. And that's why creating has made my life better, is because it's fun. It's just like it's fun to do this. It's fun to improve. It's fun to teach things. It's fun to express myself in the ways that I want to. And That's why I like creating. So those are the 7 things that have made my existence better on this planet in my 17 years of life. It has been not caring about what other people think of me, avoiding the unnecessary conflicts and tasks of life, trying to simplify my life, just keeping it simple, avoiding overthinking. It has been not breaking the promises that I make with myself and planning out my day. It has been leveling up my fitness. It has been learning new things that I believe are interesting. It has been creating the the mastery in the skills that I want to master and creating the life that I want. So, yeah, that's all I got for you today, man. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Keegan Leffler podcast, or whatever I decide to name it in the future. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I really if you've made it this far, like, you're top 1% listener already, bro. So I really respect that. You should make sure to go subscribe and do all the YouTube or Spotify stuff. Just follow, share it. I really appreciate if you did all the stuff that would make this channel grow. I'd really appreciate that. So, but yeah, this is one of the few first podcasts. I'm proud of this. But yeah, anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week in the next one, bro. Be better and have a W day.